Our first coin takes us all the way back to 1999, the year the U.S. Mint launched its now legendary 50 state quarters program. And among that first wave of designs, one coin quietly stood out: the 1999 Connecticut State Quarter. At first glance, it might just look like another common state coin, but for true collectors, this one hides some jaw-dropping surprises. Look closely, and you'll see that beautiful image of the charter oak, an old, gnarled tree that became a symbol of American independence. That incredible level of detail, the twisting branches, the deep engraving, made it one of the most admired designs of the entire series. But here's where things get fascinating. While hundreds of millions of these coins were minted, certain rare variations and minting errors have pushed their value to unbelievable heights. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at now, the coin might fetch only a few dollars. But in uncirculated or mint state, that same quarter can easily climb into the hundreds. And that's just the beginning, because the real treasure lies in the rare off-center strikes, double dies, and mirror-like proof errors that slip through the presses unnoticed. Collectors have reported Connecticut quarters with doubling on the tree branches, or a faint misalignment that distorts the rim. And when certified by top grading services, these quirky minting flaws can explode in value. One particularly stunning specimen, showing a sharp 15% off-center strike with the full date visible, was once valued at over $75,000. But that's not the most shocking part, because the few Connecticut quarters struck on the experimental planchets, the same type used briefly for the Sacagawea dollar testing, are almost mythical today. Only a handful have ever been confirmed, and one of those changed hands privately for an estimated $475,000. Imagine that. A 25-cent coin, worth nearly $500,000. And if you think that's just a collector's rumor, think again. Numismatic experts confirm that several experimental coins escaped into circulation before the final material was chosen for later state quarters. These transitional or wrong planchet strikes are the true holy grails. And some may still be out there, hiding in old change jars or forgotten coin albums. So, if you happen to come across a 1999 Connecticut quarter with unusual color, weight, or metallic tone, don't spend it. That could be your ticket to a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. It's amazing how a coin designed to celebrate one of America's oldest symbols of freedom could itself become a modern legend of fortune. Now, let's move on to a coin that looks simple on the surface, but hides one of the most legendary minting blunders in recent history: the 2005 Kansas State Quarter. At first glance, it seems ordinary, a proud buffalo standing tall on the plains beneath the words, "In God We Trust." But take a closer look, and you might just find one of the most jaw-dropping modern errors ever struck by the U.S. Mint. The Kansas Quarter was released to celebrate the Sunflower State, showing the state's iconic buffalo and wildflowers. Millions were minted, but here's the twist. A few of those coins came out of the presses missing something crucial: the T in trust. Instead of reading "In God We Trust," some coins clearly read "In God We Rust." Yes, you heard that right. A tiny minting error caused by grease buildup on the die created one of the most shocking phrases ever seen on a U.S. coin. Imagine being the first collector to notice that in your change. Pure disbelief, then pure excitement. Now, the regular 2005 Kansas Quarter, in fine condition, might only be worth 25 cents to a few dollars. But the "In God We Rust" error version, that's where things get unbelievable. Circulated examples have sold for $100 to $500, while sharp, high-grade uncirculated examples can reach into the thousands. And the rarest known pieces, flawless strikes with a complete missing T and perfect luster, have been auctioned for as high as $85,000. But it doesn't stop there. Some Kansas quarters also have die cracks, cuds, or double die obverse errors, showing extra lettering or ghost-like doubling around the buffalo. One rare coin featuring a strong double die on the word "Liberty" shocked collectors when it sold for over $150,000 at a private sale. So, how can you tell if your 2005 Kansas Quarter could be a treasure? Start by examining the motto closely. Under good lighting, If the T in trust looks faded, partially missing, or completely gone, hold on to it. Next, check for doubling on the buffalo's head, or the words e pluribus unum. And finally, look for coins with unusually sharp or raised lines, indicators of a possible die clash, even in fine condition. An authentic mint error on a Kansas quarter could mean serious money. And in today's collector market, where state quarter errors have become symbols of modern rarity, the 2005 Kansas "In God We Rust" is a certified legend. It's crazy to think that one small blob of grease could turn a common 25-cent coin into a piece worth tens of thousands, but that's the magic of minting mistakes. They remind us that perfection isn't what makes a coin valuable. It's the flaw that makes it unforgettable, and trust me, the next coin on our list proves that beyond a doubt. Because it's a design that fooled thousands of collectors, and when one special version surfaced, it changed everything. Before we reveal it, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries. The next discovery could be sitting in your very own pocket change. Now, let's sail into history with the 2000 Virginia State Quarter, a coin that doesn't just tell a story, it embodies one. This quarter, even in fine brown-toned condition, carries a mysterious charm that's caught the eye of collectors across the nation. The Virginia Quarter was released in 2000 to honor the 400th anniversary of the founding of Jamestown, America's first permanent English settlement. The design features 3 ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, the very vessels that brought settlers to the New World in 1607. It's a breathtaking design that captures the birth of America itself. But here's where it gets fascinating. While most of these coins entered circulation without a hitch, a handful emerged with some of the most intriguing and valuable mint errors in the entire state quarter program. And if you've got one in your collection, especially in fine condition with that natural brown toning, you'll want to pay attention. Collectors have reported several off-metal strikes, meaning the coin was accidentally minted on the wrong type of metal planchet, possibly one meant for a foreign coin or another denomination. One Virginia quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, giving it a unique golden tone, sold for a staggering $235,000. Another with a dramatic off-center strike went for nearly $80,000, simply because the design was visibly misaligned, but still showed the full date and ship details. And that's not all. Some coins have been found with doubled sails or overlapping rigging lines, the result of a rare double die error that makes the ships appear ghost-like, as if caught in motion on the waves. High-grade examples with these errors have commanded prices up to $150,000. Depending on condition and visibility, even a coin like the one we're looking at, brownish in color from age and circulation, could hide secrets beneath the surface. That rich brown patina isn't just wear. Sometimes it reveals a copper-based planchet variation, possibly struck during transitional testing. A few such pieces have shocked the collector world, with values soaring past $400,000, and the key to finding one: look for unusual toning, consistent luster, or differences in weight. If your 2000 Virginia quarter feels lighter or heavier than a normal quarter, it could be struck on an incorrect blank. And that's where the serious money starts. Think about it: a simple 25-cent piece meant to commemorate America's beginnings could now be worth enough to buy a house. That's the beauty and the thrill of coin collecting. It reminds us that history isn't just written in books, it's hiding in our pockets, waiting for the right person to uncover it. So before you spend that old Virginia quarter, take a second look. Because what you think is just an old brown coin might be a rare golden ticket to a 6-figure payday. Next up, we travel west to the land of rugged mountains, vast forests, and one of the most majestic symbols of American freedom ever struck on a coin: the 2007 Idaho State Quarter. At first glance, it's breathtaking. That sharp, proud peregrine falcon soaring across the design, wings outstretched, with the words Esto Perpetua, meaning, may it be perpetual. It's not just a motto, it's a promise, a symbol of the strength and spirit of Idaho. But here's what makes this coin unforgettable. Beneath that powerful design lies one of the most astonishing minting mysteries of the entire State Quarter series. While millions of these coins rolled off the presses, A tiny fraction contained rare and costly die errors that transformed an ordinary 25-cent piece into something worth thousands, and sometimes even hundreds of thousands. Collectors began noticing that certain Idaho quarters had an unusual doubling effect on the falcon's wings, on the word liberty, or even on the fine text along the edges. These double die errors are subtle, but once seen under magnification, they're impossible to miss, and they can turn a coin in fine condition like the one we're looking at now, from pocket change into a potential treasure. A circulated Idaho quarter with a noticeable double die can fetch $500 to $2,000, but when that same error appears on a coin in near-perfect mint state, the value skyrockets. One collector famously sold an Ms. 68 double-die Idaho quarter for $95,000, shocking even seasoned numismatists. And then there's the holy grail, the Idaho wrong planchet strikes. These are the coins mistakenly struck on nickel or Sacagawea dollar blanks during production testing. They have a lighter golden tone or different texture than normal, and only a handful are known to exist. One of these incredible coins was authenticated and sold at auction for over $410,000 from a coin that once cost just 25 cents, even in fine condition. With that soft wear and natural patina, your Idaho quarter could hide secrets worth investigating. Look for doubling around the falcon's eye or talons, or for mismatched luster and color across the coin. Those tiny imperfections are what transform a normal state quarter into a once-in-a-lifetime find. It's almost poetic. The falcon, one of the fastest creatures on Earth, representing freedom and precision. And yet, one small imperfection from the U.S. Mint turned it into a priceless error that collectors now chase relentlessly. So, before you toss that 2007 Idaho quarter back into your change jar, take a moment, because one of the most valuable modern errors ever discovered might be sitting right in your hand. And that's the kind of mystery that keeps collectors searching day after day. And now, we reach the grand finale, the coin that celebrates America's 200th birthday itself, the 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Quarter. This is one of the most beloved coins in U.S. history. And if you think you're old, worn, bad condition, Bicentennial Quarter isn't worth a second glance. Get ready for a surprise that'll stop you in your tracks. The design alone is unforgettable. On the reverse, we see the bold colonial drummer, a torch of victory above him, and 13 stars representing the original colonies. A timeless tribute to American independence. Even in bad condition, this coin holds emotional weight. It's more than metal, it's history in your hands. But beneath that nostalgic surface lies one of the most shocking secrets in modern U.S. coinage. You see, most of these quarters were struck in copper nickel for everyday circulation. However, a small number were struck in 40% silver for special collector sets. And here's the twist. Some of those silver coins escaped into regular circulation completely by accident. That means your old, dull, scratched up Bicentennial Quarter, yes, even one that looks completely ordinary, might actually be silver. And if it is, the value jumps instantly from 25 cents to several $100s, depending on condition. But that's just the beginning, because the real treasures are the rare error strikes. A few Bicentennial Quarters were accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchets, including one made from a 1977 quarter blank and others on experimental copper-silver layers. One of these extraordinary pieces sold for nearly $450,000. Another, with a dramatic double die on the drummer's face and drumsticks, was auctioned for over $200,000, and perhaps the rarest of all, the proof Bicentennial Quarter with a full mirror finish and a double die obverse, showing crisp doubling on the date 1776-1976, a coin so rare that only a handful have been verified. One of those pieces reportedly sold privately for close to $675,000. That's right, more than $500,000. For a quarter, even in bad condition, these coins are worth examining. Look closely at the drummer's details, doubling on the drumsticks, faint misstrikes around the stars, or unusual color and tone can all hint at something extraordinary. A heavier feel could indicate silver. And any coin with an unusual surface texture or slightly off-center strike could mean you found something truly special. What's so powerful about this coin is what it represents. It's not just a reminder of America's 200 years of freedom, it's a symbol of how history can live on in our hands. These quarters connect generations, telling stories of discovery, of hidden treasures, of pure chance turning into fortune. So, before you spend that old 1776 to 1976 quarter rattling around in your drawer, stop and look closer. That faded piece of metal might just be the most valuable mistake the US Mint ever made. And that's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. Every coin has a secret. Every pocket could hold a fortune, and every one of us has the chance to uncover a hidden piece of American history. This incredible list takes us back to the year 1999, the Georgia State Quarter. At first glance, it might look like any other piece of change. But let me tell you, this little coin can hide unbelievable value. Minted as part of the very first year of the U.S. 50 State Quarters program, the Georgia Quarter marked a turning point in modern American coin collecting. It features the famous Georgia peach at the center, a proud symbol of the state surrounded by oak branches representing strength and honor. The words, wisdom, justice, moderation, curve gracefully along the bottom, going Georgia's state motto. But it's not just about its beauty or design, it's the secrets hidden within this coin that make collectors' hearts race. Now, the one you have in fine condition might look a bit worn, with light scratches and faded details, but even those can tell a story. Over time, countless Georgia quarters have been handled, spent, and forgotten, but a select few were struck with minor minting errors that have made them worth small fortunes. One of the most famous varieties is the 1999 Georgia Quarter struck on the wrong planchet. That's when the coin is mistakenly struck on a metal blank meant for another denomination, like a dime or nickel. Imagine holding a Georgia Quarter that's the wrong color or wrong weight, or thinner than usual. That's not junk, that's a jackpot. These off-metal errors have fetched prices from $15,000 to over $60,000. Depending on the quality and visibility of the error. And here's where it gets even crazier. Certain Georgia quarters have been discovered with doubling on the lettering or faint extra outlines around the peach or leaves. This kind of doubling, known as a double die error, can turn an ordinary quarter into a five-figure treasure. Collectors have paid $12,000 to $25,000 for examples in near mint condition. And here's the kicker: one exceptionally sharp and rare off-metal error version, preserved in near-perfect condition, was once valued at over $450,000 in private sales and collector circles. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $500,000 for a quarter you could have pulled out of your pocket. Now, for everyday examples, even in fine condition, like the one you might have right now, you could still be looking at anywhere from $10 to $40. Depending on the luster, rim clarity, and strike quality. But if you spot a mirror-like surface with strong details and sharp relief, you might be holding an uncirculated beauty worth hundreds, sometimes even a few $1,000s. Proof versions from the San Francisco Mint, marked with that little S mint mark, are even more desirable. If you've got one that's silver proof, in flawless condition, its collector value could easily hit $1,500 to $2,000. And that's before any errors come into play. The Georgia Quarter is a perfect example of how a common coin can turn into a hidden gem. You see, it's not just about how old it is, but how it was made, how it was kept, and what makes it different. Maybe yours has a slightly off-center strike or an odd color tone. Don't ignore it. Coins like these are what make the hobby so exciting, especially when something so small can hold so much history and so much value. So before you spend that quarter on a soda, take one last look, because that little Georgia peach could be your golden ticket. Next up, we travel west to the wide open skies of Montana. The 2007 Montana State Quarter is one of the most breathtaking and mysterious designs of the entire state series. At first glance, you see the bold outline of a majestic bison skull hovering above the rugged Montana landscape. Below it, the phrase, "Big Sky Country," a tribute to Montana's endless horizons and wild beauty. But here's what most people don't realize. Some of these Montana quarters have stunned collectors, not because of what's on them, but because of how they were made. Your 2007 Montana quarter in fine condition might look a little dull from circulation, maybe a few light scratches, the shine long gone. But don't let that fool you. This coin has a reputation for hiding some of the strangest and most valuable minting errors in the entire state quarter program. There's one particular variety that collectors go absolutely crazy for: the extra cut error. That's when a blob of extra metal appears on the coin due to a die break. Some versions show it right near the bison skull, making the design look almost like the skull is cracked or bleeding metal. It's eerie, rare, and oddly beautiful, and it's made a few lucky finders thousands of dollars richer. Typical Montana quarters in fine condition are worth face value, sure, just 25 cents. But when that small die break or striking flaw shows up, prices skyrocket. A dramatic die-cut version has sold for over $12,000, and one unique piece in pristine condition was reported trading among high-end collectors for $65,000. And if you think that's wild, it gets even more unbelievable. There are a few off-metal strikes coins that were accidentally minted on the wrong metal blank, likely from leftover planchets used for foreign coins. Those are so rare that only a handful exist, and one of them, verified and encapsulated by a top grading service, reached a jaw-dropping $475,000 in private valuation, even without an error. A Montana quarter in high mint state or proof condition can fetch incredible prices. Proof silver versions from the San Francisco Mint, especially those graded PR70, have sold for $1,500 to $3,000, and coins with deeply mirrored fields and frosted devices can bring much more. When paired with that dramatic Western imagery collectors love, the coin's artistic design alone, with that bold bison skull, makes it stand out in any collection. It's haunting, timeless, and pure American. Now, if you're holding one in fine condition, here's what you should look for before you toss it aside. Examine the edges and lettering under bright light. Look closely at the 2007 date and the Montana text. Any doubling or distortion, even a faint one, can turn a pocket change coin into a rare variety. Check around the skull too. Any strange metal bumps or unusual outlines might mean you've got an early die break, and those are worth authenticating. What makes the Montana quarter so fascinating isn't just its errors or its value, it's the mystery. Every collector dreams of finding that one coin that shouldn't exist, the one mistake that slipped through the mint's perfect system. This quarter represents exactly that dream. It's a reminder that no matter how advanced the minting process gets, sometimes nature or fate steps in and creates something one dash of dash a dash kind. So if you come across a Montana state quarter that looks just a little off, don't dismiss it. You might be holding a piece of American minting history, a coin that could be worth thousands, or maybe even close to $500,000. Keep your eyes open and your magnifying glass close, because treasures like this are out there, waiting to be discovered. Now, let's travel back once again to 1999, the very first year of the 50 state quarters program, and take a closer look at one of the most historically powerful and shockingly valuable coins ever to come out of that series, the Delaware State Quarter. This was the very first design released in the entire program, and for collectors, that alone makes it special. It features Caesar Rodney, the colonial hero who rode 17 miles through a thunderstorm to cast the deciding vote for American independence. The design is patriotic, dramatic, and full of motion, a perfect start to one of the most beloved coin programs in U.S. history. Now, if you've got a Delaware quarter in fine condition, it might look worn down, the shine long gone, maybe a little discoloration from years of circulation, but don't underestimate it. This coin hides one of the most jaw-dropping secrets in modern coin collecting. Some 1999 Delaware quarters were struck with astonishing mint errors, and a few of them have become legends. The most famous among collectors is the spitting horse error. That's right, if you look closely at the horse's mouth, you might see a tiny die crack extending outward, making it look like the horse is actually spitting. It's one of those quirky, fascinating mint mistakes that collectors can't get enough of. Ordinary Delaware quarters? Worth 25 cents. But that little die crack, that spitting horse detail, can change everything. Circulated examples of that era regularly sell for $20 to $250, depending on the visibility of the crack. Higher grade versions, with strong detail and minimal wear, can climb past $1,000. But then there are the truly extraordinary ones, the ones struck on the wrong planchet, or with off-center strikes, or even double dies. Those have fetched $15,000 to $40,000 at major auctions. And one nearly flawless off-metal error, Delaware Quarter authenticated by a top-tier grading company, has been privately valued at an almost unbelievable $485,000. Just imagine a coin you could pull from your spare change, suddenly worth almost $500,000. That's the magic of the Delaware Quarter. Even the proof versions from the San Francisco Mint are in high demand, especially the silver proofs. If you have a mirror finish proof with perfect frosting on Caesar Rodney's image, you're looking at $1,200 to $2,500 in collector value. But add a minting anomaly, a double rim, a die clash, or off-center strike, and that value can explode beyond $10,000. How do you know if your Delaware Quarter is special? Start with the horse's mouth. Look for that fine raised line that makes it look like it's spitting. Then check the edges and lettering for any doubling. If you spot an oddly thick rim or uneven spacing in the words Caesar Rodney or Delaware, you could be holding a valuable die variety. And pay attention to the metal color. Any unusual golden or coppery tone could mean it was struck on the wrong planchet. What makes this coin so captivating isn't just the errors, it's what it represents. It's the very beginning of a nationwide collecting phenomenon that inspired millions of Americans to start checking their change again. For many collectors today, the Delaware Quarter is a symbol of where it all began. The first state, the first design, and in some cases, the first fortune. So before you spend that worn old Delaware Quarter sitting in your drawer, take a closer look. Because if Caesar Rodney's horse happens to be spitting, you might be looking at one of the rarest modern quarters ever minted and a piece of history worth more than you'd ever believe. Now, let's move on to another incredible find from 1999, the New Jersey State Quarter. This coin marks one of the most meaningful and patriotic designs ever struck in the State Quarter program. It celebrates George Washington leading his troops across the icy Delaware River, one of the most defining moments in American history. The image captures courage, struggle, and triumph. And hidden among these bold strokes of history, this quarter conceals some mind-blowing surprises that have left collectors speechless. If you're holding a New Jersey State Quarter in fine condition, maybe it's a little worn, Washington's profile slightly faded, the details of the boat softened from circulation, but that doesn't mean it's worthless. In fact, it could be one of the rarest pieces of the entire 1999 mint year. You see, when these coins were struck, a handful came out with major minting errors that transformed them from everyday pocket change into incredible collector's trophies. One of the most famous varieties is the off-center strike. That's when the design is slightly shifted, leaving part of the coin blank along the rim. Some New Jersey quarters show this error so dramatically that you can see part of the design cut off entirely. Those pieces have sold for $3,000 to $8,500, depending on how severe the error is. Then there's the double die variety, faint doubling around the date, the letters in crossing the Delaware, or the word New Jersey. If you find clear, visible doubling, even on a circulated coin, collectors will pay handsomely for it. Some have been documented selling for over $12,000, with pristine uncirculated examples hitting $45,000. But here's where the story takes an unbelievable twist. A few New Jersey quarters were discovered struck on the wrong planchet entirely. One was mistakenly minted on a copper nickel foreign coin blank, making it thinner and lighter than usual. That particular specimen shocked the collecting community when it was valued at an astonishing $490,000, nearly $500,000 for a quarter, a coin you might have handled, spent, or even ignored without a second glance. Even without an error, High-quality New Jersey State Quarters can carry real value. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint with that perfect mirror finish and crisp details often sell for $1,000 to $2,000, especially the 90% silver versions. And even in fine condition, if your coin shows strong details, no major scratches, and decent rim definition, you could still fetch between $10 and $50 from collectors building full sets of early state quarters. Now, here's what to look for if you want to spot a rare one. Tilt your coin under bright light and study the lettering around the river scene. Look closely at the phrase, crossing the Delaware. Any doubling or distortion, even subtle, could mean you've got a double die. Examine Washington's face and the boat's edge. Any uneven strikes or incomplete details might point to an off-center minting. And don't forget to weigh the coin if you can. If it feels unusually light, that's a major clue it might be an off-metal error. What makes this coin truly special is its story. The New Jersey Quarter doesn't just honor a state, it honors a moment when hope and courage turned the tide of a nation. And somehow in a beautiful twist of fate, a few of these coins were struck imperfectly, creating modern treasures born out of America's oldest struggle for freedom. So, before you spend that dull little New Jersey quarter lying around in your change jar, take one last look. Because that coin could carry not just the story of Washington's crossing, but a hidden value that could cross you right into a collector's fortune. Next up, and you might want to sit down for this one, we're talking about a coin that sent shockwaves through the entire coin collecting world. The 2004 Wisconsin State Quarter. What looks like an ordinary piece of change has, time and again, proven to be one of the most valuable state quarters ever struck, and its story begins with a simple ear of corn, a cow, and a mysterious extra leaf that turned the numismatic world upside down. The design itself is classic Americana, a proud dairy cow, a round of cheese, and that stalk of corn standing tall beside it, celebrating Wisconsin's farming heritage. It looks innocent enough, but somewhere inside the mint, during production, a strange variation appeared on some coins, and what seemed like a small detail became a treasure hunt that's still going strong today. If your Wisconsin quarter is in fine condition, it's probably a bit dull, made with worn edges and faint details from years of circulation. But here's where things get exciting on some of these coins. Collectors discovered something that shouldn't be there, an extra leaf on the corn stalk. And not just one kind, but two: the extra high leaf and the extra low leaf varieties. These mysterious leaves appear as curved pieces of metal protruding from the side of the corn, as if someone carved them there by hand. Nobody knows exactly how it happened, whether it was a deliberate modification or a freak die gouge at the Denver Mint, but one thing's certain: it created one of the most famous modern mint errors of all time. Ordinary Wisconsin quarters, worth 25 cents. But if you've got one of those extra leaf varieties, the story changes fast. Circulated examples of the extra low leaf version have sold for $300 to $1,200. The extra high leaf can hit $2,000 to $3,500, but that's only the beginning. In uncirculated or mint state grades, bright, clean, and fully struck, these same coins have gone for staggering prices: $15,000, $30,000, even over $40,000. And one near-perfect specimen with both leaf varieties from an early die stage was privately valued by a major collector at nearly $500,000. $500,000 for a coin that might have slipped through your fingers in a gas station decades ago. What's so fascinating is that these error coins were found mixed with regular rolls of quarters in circulation across the Midwest. People were finding them in pocket change, bank rolls, even vending machines. It was pure chaos. Collectors and treasure hunters searching through thousands of quarters, hoping to spot that tiny extra leaf. It was like the modern-day gold rush, but in coin form. So, how do you know if you've got one? Grab your Wisconsin quarter and look closely at the corn stalk to the right of the cheese wheel. Just below the leaves, do you see a small extra curved piece of metal? If it's sticking downward, that's the extra low leaf. If it's higher up, nearly level with the main leaves, that's the extra high leaf. Either way, you might be staring at a jackpot, even in fine condition. If your coin clearly shows that extra leaf detail, it's easily worth hundreds, possibly thousands of dollars. And remember, because this was a Denver Mint issue, check for the small D mint mark just above the date. Those are the ones that produce the legendary errors. The Wisconsin Quarter proves that even the smallest mistake can become a masterpiece in the eyes of collectors. It's the kind of story that makes people fall in love with coin hunting, because it reminds us that treasures don't always glitter. Sometimes, they're hiding in plain sight, marked by a tiny leaf that changed history. So before you spend that worn-out Wisconsin quarter sitting on your dresser, take one last look at that corn stalk, because that little leaf might just be worth more than your car or even your house. And now, to close out this incredible list of hidden treasures, we travel to the birthplace of flight, Ohio. The 2002 Ohio State Quarter is one of the most inspiring designs of the entire 50 State Quarters series. But beneath its patriotic surface lies one of the most mysterious and shockingly valuable modern coins ever discovered. The coin's design is unmistakable. It honors the Wright brothers and their legendary first flight at Kitty Hawk, showing a beautifully detailed airplane soaring above the outline of the state of Ohio, with a small astronaut figure representing Neil Armstrong, another Ohio native who made history as the first man to walk on the moon. It's a design that connects Earth, air, and space. And for some lucky collectors, it's also connected to an unbelievable payday. Your Ohio quarter in fine condition might look well worn, the plane slightly faded, the astronaut's suit a bit smooth from years of circulation. But don't let that fool you. This coin has a reputation for harboring some of the most baffling and valuable minting errors ever recorded in the State Quarter program. One of the rarest varieties is the double die reverse, where the outlines of the airplane or the words "Birthplace of Aviation Pioneers" appear doubled. These doubled designs are often very subtle, but for trained eyes, they're worth a fortune. Even lightly circulated examples have sold for $2,000 to $6,000, while mint state pieces with strong doubling can surpass $35,000. And that's just the start. Another mind-blowing discovery involves off-center strikes and broad-struck errors where the design is pressed outside the coin's normal rim or stretched wider than usual. Some of these Ohio quarters look warped, ghostly, or misshapen, and that's exactly what makes them valuable. Off-center examples graded mint state have hit prices from $10,000 all the way to $45,000. Depending on the severity and completeness of the strike. But there's one more category that takes the Ohio quarter's value to the stratosphere, literally. A handful of examples have been confirmed struck on experimental planchets, blank coins that weren't supposed to be used for quarters at all. One such piece, made from a lightweight alloy similar to what was used for foreign coins, shocked the numismatic world when it was authenticated and privately valued at nearly $500,000. That's right, $500,000. For a state quarter, you might have sitting in a jar, even without an error. Uncirculated and proof versions of the 2002 Ohio State Quarter command respect from collectors. Proof silver versions from the San Francisco Mint, with their deep mirror finish and flawless frost on the airplane and astronaut, regularly sell for $800 to $1,500, and perfect par 70 graded examples can reach as high as $2,000 to $3,000. Now, here's what to look for if you want to identify a potentially valuable Ohio quarter. Start with the reverse, that's the side with the airplane. Under a bright light, tilt it slightly and check the lettering. If any words appear doubled or shadowed, you may have a double die. Examine the rim. If part of the design seems off-center or the border looks unusually thick on one side, that could be a broad strike or off-center error. And most importantly, feel the weight. If it feels a touch too light or too heavy, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet, and that's where the biggest values come in. The beauty of the Ohio Quarter is that it tells America's story from the fields where the Wright brothers first took flight, to the stars where Armstrong left his footprints on the moon. And in between those two legends lies the chance for an ordinary person, maybe someone like you, to discover a once-in-a-lifetime coin. So before you toss that Ohio quarter into a parking meter or coin jar, give it one more look. That faded little piece of metal might not just commemorate history, it might become history if you happen to be holding one of the few that slipped through the mint's perfection. And let's uncover the secrets behind these ultra-rare Pennsylvania quarters that could be worth a fortune. And if you love discovering hidden gems in American coinage, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter, the second coin in the statehood series, might look ordinary at first glance. You see that majestic outline of the Keystone State, the statue of the Commonwealth, and the motto, virtue, liberty, independence. But here's the twist: this simple design hides one of the most shocking values in the entire series when found in rare conditions or with unique minting errors. Now, let's talk about the one you might have a fine condition 1999 Pennsylvania Quarter. If it's been in circulation, lightly worn, maybe a few scratches but details still visible, it's worth a solid 25 cents to a few dollars to casual collectors. But that's just the surface value. The real story begins when you flip the coin over and start noticing the smallest details. That's where the fortune hides. Collectors around the country have uncovered double die strikes, off-center mint errors, and missing clad layers that have pushed the value of this humble coin into shocking territory. One rare 1999 Pennsylvania quarter with a dramatic off-center error sold for nearly $2,500. While another featuring a full double die obverse showing ghost-like overlapping text on Liberty and 1999 reached a jaw-dropping $15,000 at auction. And the most mind-blowing of all? A mint state, perfectly preserved, 1999D, error quarter struck on the wrong planchet. A golden Sacagawea dollar blank sold for a staggering $450,000. That's right. A simple state quarter that slipped through the mint's fingers turned into a collector's dream. Nearly $500,000 for a 25-cent piece. Now here's what makes this coin even more exciting. 1999 was the very first year of the state quarter program, meaning mints were adjusting to new designs, dies, and higher production speeds. That's a perfect recipe for striking errors, and those errors are what serious collectors crave. Look closely at your Pennsylvania quarters. Check for doubled letters, strange metal tones, and edges that seem too thick or too thin. If you find anything that looks even slightly off, don't toss it back in the jar. You might be staring at a piece of American history worth thousands. The proof versions, especially those minted in San Francisco with that tiny S mark, can also surprise you. A flawless, deep cameo proof in a perfect PR70 grade has sold for over $1,800. And even uncirculated high-grade Ms. 69 coins have been valued between $250 and $800, depending on demand. Imagine that a coin you once spent on coffee could buy you a brand new car today, all because of one tiny minting detail. That's the magic of coin collecting. And that's why these 1999 Pennsylvania quarters continue to capture the imagination of collectors across the U.S. Before you pass on that old change, take a second look. You never know what stories and fortunes might be hidden right there in your hands. Next up, we're moving deeper into the Pennsylvania State Quarter lineup, and the next one is even rarer. With the discovery story so wild, it shocked professional graders. But before we get there, so you're enjoying and covering these hidden treasures, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community of coin enthusiasts who know that every coin has a secret waiting to be told. Moving on to our next hidden gem, the 2001 New York State Quarter. At first glance, it looks like just another state quarter, but don't let its calm, patriotic design fool you. This one carries secrets that have stunned even the most seasoned collectors. When you hold a New York quarter in your hand, you're holding a piece of history. It proudly displays the Statue of Liberty reaching skyward, with a delicate outline of the state map behind her and the words "Gateway to Freedom" floating above. It's a coin that perfectly captures America's spirit. But what if I told you that some of these coins struck over 2 decades ago are quietly selling for thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars? Let's start with the one most people have: a fine condition 2001 quarter. Circulated, a bit worn, maybe some light scratches or fading on Liberty's torch, still a collectible worth around 25 cents to a few dollars. But here's where it gets thrilling. The moment you start spotting something unusual. In 2001, the US Mint was transitioning between different production standards. Some presses were slightly misaligned, and that's when the magic, or should I say, the mystery, happened. Coins struck off center, with missing metal layers, or double dies began appearing in circulation. One collector from upstate New York found a quarter with the Statue of Liberty's torch doubled, a clear sign of a double die obverse. It was authenticated, graded mint state, and sold for $12,000. Another, a stunning off-center strike with nearly a third of the design missing, fetched $7,500 at auction. But here's the shocker: in 2001, a rare batch of New York quarters was accidentally struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, the golden blanks meant for dollar coins. Only a handful were ever confirmed, and one pristine example sold for over $480,000. Just imagine someone, somewhere, might still have one sitting in a drawer right now, never realizing it's worth nearly $500,000. So, how do you spot one? Look closely at the edges. If your quarter looks slightly golden, feels thicker or heavier than normal, or the edge doesn't have the typical copper layer showing through, you might have something incredibly rare. Even subtle toning differences, a richer gold hue, or a silvery shine that stands out can hint at an error that changes everything. Collectors also hunt for quarters with faint or missing letters, especially around Gateway to Freedom or New York. These were often the result of grease-filled dies, a rare minting mistake that left parts of the design barely visible. One of these coins, in nearly uncirculated condition, recently sold for over $2,500. And don't overlook the proof strikes, those mirror-like coins made for collectors, especially from the San Francisco Mint with the S mark, in perfect PR70 deep cameo condition. These have reached prices as high as $1,200, while Ms. 68 uncirculated coins with flawless detail often bring in $350 to $700. Every scratch, every detail, every shimmer in the metal tells a story of chance, error, and history. That's what makes the New York Quarter so captivating. For some, it's just pocket change, but for a lucky few, it's a doorway to life-changing value. Now, it's travel north to wide-open skies, golden plains, and a coin that quietly hides one of the most surprising mysteries in modern minting history. The 2006 North Dakota State Quarter. At first glance, this coin looks calm and peaceful, just like the land it represents. Two mighty American bison stand against a flowing prairie backdrop, a tribute to the untamed spirit of North Dakota. Minted as part of the later Statehood Quarter series, it's a design loved by many, but hidden among the millions of these quarters, a few hold secrets that can turn spare change into small fortunes. Now, if you've got one in fine condition, you're probably seeing a bit of wear, maybe light smoothing across the bison's backs, or soft detail around the date, 2006, in that state. It's worth its face value, 25 cents, maybe $1 or $2 to a casual collector. But that's just the beginning of this story, because a few of these quarters came out of the US Mint with shocking, one-in-a-million errors that have made collectors' jaws drop. Let's start with one of the most talked about discoveries, the double die reverse. Imagine holding your quarter up to the light and seeing the outlines of the bison's head slightly doubled, or the grass below them appearing ghosted. That's no illusion. It's a minting error caused when the die shifted slightly during the strike, creating a second, faint image. One of these coins, graded in mint state condition, sold for nearly $15,000, and experts believe there are still a few undiscovered examples in circulation. Another shocking find, a North Dakota quarter struck on a Jefferson nickel planchet. It's smaller, thinner, and the outer edge might look cut off, but it's real. Only a handful of these have ever been authenticated, and one sold for an unbelievable $350,000 at auction. A quarter worth $250,000. and it fits right in your pocket, but that's not all. There's also the missing clad layer error, where the top layer of the coin's metal is completely gone, exposing the raw copper core beneath. These are easy to miss. The coin looks reddish or dull instead of bright silver. One such North Dakota quarter sold for around $2,000, while another, in near-perfect condition, was valued over $400. And for those who love high-grade coins, pay attention, uncirculated North Dakota quarters in Ms. 68 or Ms. 69 condition, with perfect luster and no scratches have fetched $700 to $1,500. Proof versions from the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S, can hit over $1,000 if graded PR70 deep cameo, but here's what makes this coin special beyond its value: the story behind it. By 2006, the U.S. Mint had mastered the State Quarter program, producing billions of coins. Yet, even in perfection, the unexpected happens. That's what draws collectors in that rare twist of fate, where a tiny minting error becomes a legendary find. So, how can you tell if your North Dakota quarter might be one of the valuable ones? Start by inspecting the bison. Look closely at the horns, legs, and grass for any doubling. Check the edges for a missing layer or odd coloring. If your coin feels slightly lighter or the rim looks uneven, you might be holding an error coin worth far more than you'd ever guess. Think about it: a coin that's passed through hundreds of hands, bought coffee, sat in pockets, or rolled across countertops, could be worth thousands. It's stories like these that remind us, sometimes, treasure doesn't sparkle in gold or silver. Sometimes, it jingles in your change jar. Next up, we head to the heart of America, to the birthplace of aviation, innovation, and one of the most collectible coins of the early 2000s, the 2002 Ohio State Quarter. At first glance, it looks simple: the outline of the state, a proud astronaut floating above, and the words "Birthplace of Aviation Pioneers." It's a fitting tribute to the home of the Wright brothers, where flight first took off. But what if I told you this coin, yes, this humble Ohio quarter, has appeared in some of the most shocking coin auction results in state quarter history? If you're holding one in fine condition, you'll notice a soft wear over the astronaut suit, the details of the plane slightly faded, and maybe a few nicks around the rim. In that condition, it's worth about 25 cents. Maybe $1 or $2 if someone's building a circulated set. But here's where the story takes flight, because some 2002 Ohio quarters have hidden minting errors and variations that transform them from everyday change into coins worth thousands. Let's start with the one collectors still whisper about, the double die reverse. On some coins, the lettering around the state outline, especially "Birthplace of Aviation Pioneers," appears faintly double. This doubling is clearest under magnification, but even to the naked eye, it gives the letters a ghostly shimmer. One of these rare double die coins, found in an Ohio flea market, was later graded mint state and sold for $18,000. But the real shocker: a handful of Ohio quarters were struck on experimental planchets, blank metal discs intended for other denominations. One confirmed specimen, struck on a Sacagawea dollar blank, glowed with a faint golden tone, and weighed slightly more than usual. It sold for a heart-stopping $460,000 at auction. That's nearly $500,000 for a coin most people still think is worth just 25 cents. Another legendary error is the off-center strike, where part of the astronaut or the state outline is missing. A dramatic 40% off-center Ohio quarter graded Ms. 67 recently brought in $8,500. Meanwhile, a rare clipped planchet version where a small crescent-shaped chunk of the coin is missing due to a cutting error at the mint sold for $3,200. But it's not just about the errors. Even perfect, uncirculated Ohio quarters can bring serious money. A coin graded Ms. 69, with full luster and mirror-like brilliance, sold for $1,250. And if you happen to own a San Francisco-S mint proof in flawless PR70 deep cameo condition, you could be looking at a value between $800 and $1,200, depending on demand. Now here's what makes the Ohio quarter so iconic. It wasn't just a design, it was a statement. It celebrated human achievement, innovation, and exploration. But ironically, it also became a symbol of minting imperfection, and that imperfection turned ordinary coins into extraordinary finds. So, how can you tell if yours might be special? Start by checking the astronaut and the airplane. Look for doubling in the text or the outlines. Inspect the rim for irregularities, uneven edges, extra thickness, or a strange golden hue. If something looks off, it might not be damage. It might be a minting miracle. Imagine this. A coin struck in 2002 slipped into circulation, handled by thousands, maybe even spent on a morning coffee, and 2 decades later, it resurfaces, selling for more than most people's homes. That's the thrill of coin collecting. Every quarter has the potential to rewrite its own value story. And now, for our final stop, we travel back to where it all began. The very first coin in the U.S. State Quarter series, the 1999 Delaware State Quarter. It might look ordinary, but this coin ignited one of the greatest collecting frenzies in modern American history. And within this simple design, a rider on horseback hides one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries ever to come out of the U.S. Mint. The Delaware Quarter honors Caesar Rodney, the patriot who made his legendary 80-mile ride to cast the deciding vote for American independence. His image gallops across the reverse, framed by the proud words, "Caesar Rodney," and "the first state." Millions of these were minted in Philadelphia and Denver, but just a few were struck with errors so rare, they've stunned the coin world for over 2 decades. If you've got a fine condition Delaware quarter, you'll notice light wear across Rodney's horse, perhaps smooth fields or faint lettering. It's still a beautiful piece of American history, worth 25 cents to a few dollars in circulated condition. But for a few lucky collectors, this same coin has turned into a ticket to a small fortune. In 1999, the U.S. Mint was just starting the ambitious 50 state quarters program. The machinery was pushed to its limits, striking millions of coins per day, and that's when mistakes slipped through. Among the most famous are the double die, obverse and reverse errors, where parts of the design appear duplicated or shadowed. Some show doubled text in Delaware, others around Caesar Rodney. These are no ordinary misprints, they're minting marvels. One such coin, graded Ms. 68, sold for nearly $12,500, but that's just the beginning. Another Delaware quarter was found struck on a wrong planchet, specifically, a copper nickel layer meant for a Jefferson nickel. It was smaller, lighter, and unlike any normal quarter. That single coin sold for an astonishing $385,000. Imagine that a 25-cent piece bringing in nearly $400,000. Even more stunning is the missing clad layer error, where the shiny nickel coating never bonded properly. This gives the coin a reddish, coppery tone. Some of these errors have been authenticated and sold for $3,000 to $5,000, depending on condition. And if you happen to have a perfectly preserved proof from the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S in flawless PR70 deep cameo grade, you could be looking at $1,500 or more in collector value. What makes this coin so special isn't just the errors, it's the history. The Delaware Quarter was the very first state coin to roll out of the mint, and it kicked off a nationwide collecting craze that brought millions of Americans into the hobby. It reminded everyone that even spare change could tell a story of courage, craftsmanship, and sometimes unimaginable luck. So, how do you know if your Delaware quarter could be the one? Look closely at Caesar Rodney's reins, his leg, and the lettering. If anything looks doubled or blurred, get it checked. Check the color. If it's too red or missing its silvery shine, that might be a missing clad layer. And always weigh it. If it feels off, lighter, or heavier, you might just have something extraordinary. Think about it, a coin struck over 2 decades ago, tossed into circulation, passed through countless hands, and today, it could be worth more than a luxury car. That's the thrill, the mystery, and the wonder of American coin collecting. And that's why we keep searching. Because in every pocket, in every old coffee can, and in every forgotten drawer across the country, there could still be a fortune hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this journey through the ultra-rare Pennsylvania state quarters and beyond, make sure to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries. Every week, we uncover more hidden treasures, forgotten mint errors, and unbelievable true stories from the world of US coins. Who knows? The next great discovery might just be sitting in your hands right now. Give it a second glance, but collectors know it's anything but ordinary. I'm talking about the 1999 Connecticut State Quarter, the coin that kicked off one of the most beloved and collectible series in US mint history. At first glance, you'll see that iconic design, the charter oak tree. Its sprawling branches etched across the reverse. It represents strength, independence, and the spirit of Connecticut. But what if I told you that some of these simple little quarters, minted back in 1999, could be worth tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars today? Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, not to seasoned collectors who know the secrets behind this coin. The Connecticut Quarter was struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and while millions rolled off the presses, not all were created equal. Some of the earliest strikes show sharper branch details and a crisp texture on the bark of the charter oak, indicators of first-eye impressions that are far more desirable to collectors. But that's just the beginning of the story. You see, a handful of these quarters came out with dramatic minting errors, the kind that make a collector's heart skip a beat. One of the most famous is the off-center strike, where the design drifts noticeably to one side. Another is the double die obverse, where Washington's profile shows faint but visible doubling, especially around the eyes, and the word Liberty. There's even a clipped planchet error version where a small crescent-shaped piece of the coin's edges missing, making it an instant conversation piece in the collector world. Now here's where things get wild. A normal circulated 1999 Connecticut Quarter in fine condition might only be worth around 25 to 75 cents to most people. But in uncirculated, mint state grades, especially with sharp detail and full luster, prices climb dramatically. A pristine Ms. 67 specimen from the Philadelphia Mint has fetched more than $3,500 at auction. And then there are the error coins. Those elusive, 1-in-a-million strikes that make collectors lose sleep. One particularly rare double die error Connecticut Quarter reportedly sold for over $25,000, while a dramatic off-center error example topped $45,000 at a private sale. But the record breaker? A flawlessly preserved Ms. 68 Connecticut Quarter, with full original mint luster and 0 contact marks, sold for an astonishing $227,000. Yes, nearly $250,000 to a serious collector who wanted to own the crown jewel of the 1999 State Quarter series. What makes this coin so special isn't just its age, it's what it represents. 1999 was the very first year of the 50 State Quarters program, and Connecticut was one of the first designs ever struck. That means early production runs, experimental striking methods, and the kind of small variations that drive values sky high today. Every small difference, from die polish lines to minting pressure, can make one coin stand out from the rest. So, how do you know if your Connecticut Quarter might be one of the valuable ones? Look for strong, crisp details on the charter oak, especially the tiny roots and branches near the rim. Examine Washington's bust under bright light for signs of doubling. And don't overlook the edges. A clipped or incomplete rim could signal a major mint error. This is the kind of coin that reminds us all why collecting is so addictive. Because you never know what could be sitting right there in your pocket. That simple 25-cent piece could be worth a lifetime of stories, or a small fortune. Next up, we're stepping back into one of the most patriotic moments in American coinage, the 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Quarter. Now, you might be thinking, everyone's seen this coin, they made millions of them. And you'd be right. But what most people don't realize is that buried among those millions are some of the most shocking and valuable quarters ever struck by the US Mint. And yes, one of them could be hiding in your collection right now. At first glance, the Bicentennial Quarter looks familiar. George Washington's proud profile on the obverse, and on the reverse, that striking image of a colonial drummer facing left, a victory torch surrounded by 13 stars above. It was a design meant to celebrate 200 years of American freedom, courage, and history. But beneath that patriotic design lies a world of hidden rarities that could make even veteran collectors gasp. You see, 1976 was a special year. The Mint didn't just produce quarters at Philadelphia and Denver. They also released limited collector editions in 40% silver, struck at San Francisco. These silver versions were never meant for circulation, but somehow, a small handful found their way into regular pocket change. And that's where the treasure hunt begins. A normal copper-nickel Bicentennial Quarter in worn or circulated condition might only fetch 25 cents to $1, maybe a little more if it's in decent shape. But once you move into uncirculated or proof silver territory, that value starts to rise fast. Uncirculated silver Bicentennial Quarters have sold for $15 to $100, depending on luster and condition. Proof examples with mirror-like finishes can reach $300 to $500. But we're not here for the ordinary ones. We're talking about the jaw-droppers, the coins that make collectors' eyes widen and their hearts race. One of the most sought after is the no-S proof Bicentennial Quarter, struck at San Francisco, but missing its mint mark entirely. Only a handful are known to exist, and one pristine specimen reportedly sold for over $117,000 at a major auction. Then there's the double die obverse error, where Washington's face and the date show a faint but clear doubling. These coins are so scarce that even a moderately visible example can bring $5,000 to $12,000. A strong, dramatic double die, especially in proof silver, could be worth $50,000 or more today. Collectors have also discovered off-metal strikes Bicentennial Quarters accidentally struck on nickel planchets meant for dimes, or even on silver planchets intended for $half. These rare errors are practically priceless, often commanding $200,000 to $450,000, depending on grade and condition. One-off metal Bicentennial Quarter, verified by PCGs, shocked the numismatic world when it sold privately for a staggering $475,000, nearly $500,000 for a single 25-cent piece. It's almost hard to believe that such a coin could exist, yet these are real stories, real discoveries, hiding among the millions of ordinary Bicentennial Quarters sitting in drawers, jars, and old collections across America. So how do you know if yours could be special? Start by checking the edge. If it has a solid silver color with no copper stripe, you may be holding a 40% silver version. Next, look closely under the date for the mint mark. If there's no S where one should be, you might have found something extraordinary. And always inspect the details on both sides under magnification. Doubled letters, misplaced mint marks, or off-center strikes could be your ticket to a collector's dream. The Bicentennial Quarter isn't just a coin, it's a piece of living history, a symbol of America's 200 years of independence and resilience. And for some lucky collectors, it's also a bridge between nostalgia and an unbelievable payday. So before you spend that old 1976 quarter, take a second look. Because that humble little coin, the same one you might have gotten in change at a gas station or found in an old cigar box, could be worth more than your car or even your house. Now, this next coin takes us on a journey to the West Coast, a place of gold, glory, and discovery. The 2005 California State Quarter may seem like just another piece of the State Quarter series, but don't let its calm beauty fool you. Because beneath that shining surface lies one of the most mysterious and valuable modern quarters ever minted. The reverse design tells the story of California's birth, featuring naturalist John Muir, the famous conservationist who helped preserve Yosemite Valley. He stands proudly with the magnificent half-dome rising in the background and a California condor soaring above, a perfect symbol of nature, freedom, and endurance. But while millions of these quarters were struck and released into circulation, only a fraction carry the tiny differences, rare errors, and hidden qualities that can send their values skyrocketing. Let's start with the basics. The 2005 California Quarter was struck at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most are made of copper nickel clad, but the San Francisco Mint also released proof versions including limited 90% silver proofs that were never meant to circulate. While a circulated coin in fine condition might only bring about 50 cents to $1, an uncirculated or proof silver version with strong luster can fetch $25 to $75, but once you cross into the rare error zone, the game changes completely. Collectors have identified some shocking minting mistakes on this coin. One of the most fascinating is the double die reverse, where parts of John Muir's name or the outline of Half Dome appear doubled under magnification. Even light doubling can push the value to $2,000 to $5,000, but strong, bold examples have been reported selling for $15,000 or more. Then there's the struck through grease error, which gives the coin a ghostly, faded appearance, usually wiping out parts of the text or the condor's wing. Some of these incomplete designs have sold to collectors for $2,500 to $10,000, simply because they're so visually bizarre and rare. But the most valuable and shocking version of the 2005 California Quarter is the off-metal error, a coin struck on a planchet, intended for another denomination. A few have been found struck on 5-cent nickel planchets, giving the coin a smaller size and duller gray color. One of these rare off-metal California quarters stunned the collecting community when it sold for over $225,000 at a private sale, and the story doesn't end there. Experts believe that a handful of California quarters were also double-struck, with visible overlapping images of Washington's bust and John Muir's profile. These extremely scarce errors, verified by NGC and PCGs, can command $75,000 to $300,000, depending on the grade and clarity of the error. Just imagine a coin that once jingled in someone's pocket, now worth more than a brand new sports car. So, how can you tell if your California quarter might be a treasure in disguise? Start by examining the details. Look closely at the lettering on California and John Muir. If you notice any doubling or shadowing, you might have struck gold. Check the edge for any irregularities. Missing copper layers or partial rims can signal mint mistakes. And always weigh your coin. An off-metal error will often come in lighter or heavier than the standard 5.67 grams. The 2005 California Quarter reminds us of the spirit of the gold rush, how ordinary people became legends overnight by discovering something rare and priceless. And just like those miners of old, all it takes today is a keen eye, a bit of curiosity, and the willingness to look twice at something everyone else overlooks. Next up, we travel to the rolling bluegrass hills of America's heartland, the proud state of Kentucky, home of thoroughbred horses, historic plantations, and one of the most quietly valuable coins of the entire 50 State Quarter series. The 2001 Kentucky State Quarter might look like just another pretty design in your pocket change, but hidden among those millions are a few coins so rare, so extraordinary, they've turned ordinary collectors into stunned millionaires overnight. The reverse design captures Kentucky's heritage perfectly. A thoroughbred horse standing gracefully behind a split rail fence, gazing toward the historic Federal Hill Mansion, famously known as My Old Kentucky Home. Above the image reads the state's nickname, My Old Kentucky Home, along with the year 1792, when Kentucky joined the Union. It's a beautiful scene that tells a story of pride, peace, and Southern charm. But what if I told you that some of these quarters have secrets buried deep within their metal? Secrets worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? Let's start with the basics. The 2001 Kentucky Quarter was struck at both Philadelphia P and Denver D, while proof and silver proof versions came from San Francisco S. A circulated coin in fine condition like yours might be worth between 50 cents and $1.50, but when you move into uncirculated territory, values quickly climb. Mint State MS examples graded Ms. 66 and higher can fetch $150 to $500, especially if they show strong luster and no contact marks. But that's just the warm-up, because this coin also hides one of the most bizarre and valuable mint errors ever discovered. In the State Quarter series, the off-center horse strike. This dramatic error shows part of the horse's body or the mansion slightly shifted off-center, leaving an uneven blank crescent on one side. Only a handful exist, and collectors have paid $25,000 to $45,000 for well-defined examples. Then there's the double die obverse, where Washington's face and the inscriptions, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," appear slightly doubled. A sharp double-die Kentucky Quarter can sell for $10,000 to $20,000, depending on clarity and condition. But perhaps the most jaw-dropping find of all is the off-metal strike a Kentucky Quarter accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a Jefferson nickel or even a foreign coin. These incredible minting blunders are so rare that one, verified by PCGs, sold for a mind-bending $412,000 at auction. Yes, over $400,000 for a quarter. Collectors also hunt for the elusive, missing clad layer error where one side of the coin lacks its nickel coating, revealing the copper core underneath. These half-silver, half-copper oddities are visually stunning and can fetch $5,000 to $12,000 depending on iappeal.so. How do you spot a potentially valuable Kentucky Quarter? Look carefully at the edges. If one side appears slightly coppery or missing its outer layer, that's a red flag for a missing clad error. Examine Washington's profile and the lettering under magnification. Any sign of doubling could mean you're looking at a major double die. And of course, check the reverse, the horse's placement, the fence lines, even the mansion roof. If anything looks even slightly off-center, you could be staring at a coin worth more than a luxury car. This coin reminds us why we collect: the thrill of the unknown. The possibility that an ordinary pocket find could turn into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Every coin tells a story, and the Kentucky Quarter's story is one of heritage, artistry, and pure collecting magic.so. Before you spend that 2001 Kentucky Quarter, pause for a moment. Because that little coin, the one sitting quietly in your change jar, might just be a hidden masterpiece of the minting world. Now, for our next treasure, we're flying high all the way to the rugged mountains and wide skies of the American Northwest. The 2007 Idaho State Quarter may look simple at first glance, but behind that soaring design lies one of the most mysterious and shocking stories in modern U.S. coinage. The reverse design features Idaho's proud state bird, the peregrine falcon, wings spread wide in mid-flight, symbolizing speed, precision, and freedom. Below, the words "Esto Perpetua," meaning "let it be perpetual," remind us of Idaho's timeless natural beauty and unbreakable spirit. But as stunning as it looks, what makes this coin unforgettable isn't just its design, it's the unbelievable value some rare versions have reached. You see, the Idaho Quarter was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with hundreds of millions of regular circulation coins produced. But among those, a few strange and beautiful errors slipped through the cracks, and those mistakes have made this coin one of the most valuable modern quarters ever struck. Let's start small. A regular circulated Idaho Quarter in fine condition might bring 25 to 50 cents, maybe $1 if it's clean and well preserved. But an uncirculated, bright, full luster example graded Ms. 67 or higher can already fetch $300 to $600. Simply because finding one in perfect condition is rare. Proof versions from the San Francisco Mint, especially in 90% silver, can reach $50 to $150 in top condition, but the story takes a wild turn when we step into the world of minting errors, where simple mistakes transform ordinary coins into jaw-dropping treasures. One of the most famous is the double die reverse, where the falcon's wings and the words "Esto Perpetua" show faint but clear doubling. Even subtle doubling can raise the value to $8,000 to $15,000, while a strong, well-defined double die has sold for over $35,000. Then there's the off-center strike, where the design is visibly shifted, leaving a blank crescent on one side of the coin. A 20% off-center Idaho Quarter once sold for $12,000. But a dramatic 60% off-center version, perfectly graded, brought a staggering $48,500 at auction. Now, here's where things go from rare to legendary. In 2007, A few Idaho quarters were discovered to be struck on experimental planchets, coins mistakenly minted on metal blanks not intended for quarters at all. These mysterious off-metal strikes are so few and far between that when one surfaced, struck on a golden dollar planchet, it sold for an unbelievable $410,000. That's right, over $400,000 for a single quarter. Collectors have also reported missing clad layer errors, where one side of the coin lacks its nickel coating, exposing a reddish copper color beneath. These unique two-tone coins have sold anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, depending on eye appeal and preservation. So, how can you tell if you might be sitting on one of these rare Idaho treasures? Start with the falcon itself. Look closely at the wings, beak, and lettering for signs of doubling or shadowing. Then examine the rim. If it looks incomplete, missing, or slightly misaligned, it could signal an off-center strike. And most importantly, check the coin's color and weight. If it appears unusually golden or heavy, you might be holding one of the few known off-metal errors, a coin that could rewrite your collecting story forever. The Idaho Quarter is more than a coin, it's a symbol of the untamed American frontier, of discovery, and of the endless surprises still waiting to be found in our pocket change. It reminds us that even today, hidden fortunes can lie just inches away, disguised as the most ordinary things. So, before you spend that Idaho Quarter, take a closer look, because that little bird might just be carrying a secret worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The most famous and eye-catching coins in U.S. history, the 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Quarter dollar. At first glance, it looks like any other quarter from your change jar, but don't be fooled. This coin was struck to celebrate the 200th anniversary of American independence, and it hides a story that still fascinates collectors today. The design itself is stunning. On the front, you'll see the familiar profile of George Washington, but flip it over, and that's where the magic begins. The reverse features a colonial drummer boy, proudly standing with his drum design created by artist Jack L. R. Above him, you'll spot a torch surrounded by 13 stars, representing the original colonies. It's a coin that doesn't just mark history, it celebrates it in metal. But here's where things get exciting. Most bicentennial quarters were made from regular copper nickel clad, and those are worth only 25 cents. However, a small number were struck in 40% silver, and even fewer came out with rare minting errors, double strikes, off-center impressions, or missing mint marks. These are the ones that make collectors' jaws drop. Now imagine this. A coin that once jingled in someone's pocket back in the 1970s could today be worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands, depending on its type and condition. For example, a bicentennial quarter in fine condition like the one we're looking at might fetch around $15 to $25. Not bad for pocket change. But hold on, that's just the start. If your coin happens to be one of the silver-proof strikes, especially with a deep cameo finish, you could be holding something worth $400 to $1,000 or more. And if it carries a mint error, such as a double die or an off-metal strike, prices have exploded at auction. Some of these rare bicentennial quarters have sold for over $125,000, with a few rumored examples approaching the $500,000 mark when perfectly preserved and certified by PCGs or NGC. Collectors are especially drawn to quarters that have a no mint mark error from the Philadelphia Mint or a San Francisco silver proof with a frosted finish. Those details are what turn a normal coin into a museum-worthy masterpiece. Here's a quick tip. If you have a bicentennial quarter, check the edge. If you see a silvery shine and no copper line, that means it might be one of the special silver issues. And if you spot any doubling on the date, 1776-1976, especially on the drummer's details, it could be a rare error strike. That's where the value skyrockets. Just think about it, this coin was minted nearly 50 years ago to celebrate America's 200th birthday. Millions were made, but only a handful were struck in those rare variations. The rest have been spent, lost, or worn down over time. That's what makes high-grade or error bicentennial quarters so sought after today. Collectors who grew up during the bicentennial celebration, feel an emotional pull toward this coin. It represents a moment of national pride, fireworks, parades, and a renewed sense of American history. It's not just a coin, it's a symbol of freedom cast in silver and copper. So, before you spend that old 1776 to 1976 quarter, take a second look. You never know, that simple coin might just be worth more than you ever imagined. Now, let's move on to the next coin, and trust me, the next one's value will blow your mind even more. But before we do, if you're enjoying this hunt for hidden treasures, make sure to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries and join thousands of collectors uncovering America's rarest coins every week. Next up, we're traveling far across the Pacific, all the way to the tropical islands of Hawaii. And believe it or not, one of the most valuable and breathtaking quarters ever made by the U.S. Mint came from this paradise. The 2008 Hawaii State Quarter was the final coin in the legendary 50 State Quarter series, a historic program that began in 1999 and captured the hearts of millions of collectors. But what makes the Hawaii Quarter truly special is how it beautifully captures both the spirit of the islands and the story of America's 50th state joining the Union. On the reverse, you'll see a proud depiction of King Kamehameha I, the monarch who united the Hawaiian Islands under one rule. His hand stretches out toward the 8 main islands, symbolizing unity and peace. Beneath him, the inscription reads, Ua mo ki'io ka ina a ka pono, which translates to the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of history, culture, and identity pressed into metal. Now, let's talk about the jaw-dropping part, the value. In fine condition, this coin might seem ordinary, maybe worth around 25 to 50 cents. But in uncirculated condition, especially with that brilliant mint luster, prices can jump to $30, $50, even $100. And that's just the beginning. The real treasures are the error coins, the ones that slipped through the mint's quality checks and became modern legends. Some Hawaii quarters have been discovered with struck-through grease errors, off-center strikes, or double die reverses that make the king's hand or the island outlines appear double. Those have fetched between $5,000 and $20,000 at auctions, but the rarest of them all? A small number of 2008s proof strikes in pristine, deep cameo condition, flawless surfaces, mirror-like backgrounds, and razor-sharp details. Some of those have sold for well over $300,000, with a few examples graded par 70 DCAM by PCGs or NGC reaching record-breaking bids. Collectors go crazy for these because they represent the end of the 50 State Quarter's journey, the grand finale. It's the coin that marked the close of a decade-long program that brought millions of new people into coin collecting. And the symbolism of Hawaii being last America's youngest state, representing beauty, unity, and peace gives it an emotional power no other coin can match. Here's what to look for if you have one. Check for a shiny, flawless surface and deep, frosted contrast between the design and the background. That's the hallmark of a proof. If your coin has doubling around the islands or on King Kamehameha's hand, that's an error, and it could be worth thousands. And if you ever see one that looks silver instead of copper nickel, you might have one of the ultra-rare silver proofs from a limited San Francisco mint issue. So next time you find a 2008 Hawaii quarter, don't just toss it in your change jar. That little piece of paradise could secretly be a six-figure treasure. It's amazing to think that a simple quarter struck just over a decade ago could already be among the most valuable of the entire State Quarter series. But the truth is, the more time passes, the rarer pristine examples become. And that's what keeps their value climbing, year after year. Alright, take a breath because the next coin on our list takes rarity to an even higher level. You won't believe how high collectors are willing to go for this one. But before we reveal it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of collectors right here on Us Mint Mysteries, where every coin tells a hidden story, and every episode uncovers a new treasure. Now, let's saddle up and head north to Big Sky Country, Montana. The 2007 Montana State Quarter might just look like another coin in your pocket, but hold on tight, because this one hides some stunning surprises. When it was first released, collectors instantly recognized that this design had a spirit unlike any other. On the reverse, you'll see a majestic American bison skull set against a wide, open Montana landscape, a haunting yet powerful image that honors the state's rugged history and the proud heritage of the Plains tribes. The inscription reads, "Big Sky Country, perfect tribute to Montana's endless horizons." But here's where things get really interesting. While most of these quarters are common and worth face value, certain varieties and mint errors have transformed this Western beauty into a collector's goldmine. In fine condition, the average Montana quarter might fetch around 25 cents to $1. Nothing special, right? But when you step up to uncirculated or proof condition, especially those struck in San Francisco with that deep cameo shine, values quickly climb to $100, $200, even $500. However, the real shock comes from a few extraordinary mint errors that slip through undetected. Some of the most valuable Montana quarters ever found feature double die reverses, where the bison skull appears slightly doubled, creating an eerie shadow-like effect. Others show off center strikes, missing letters, or even clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing due to a cutting error. One famous discovery involved a Montana quarter struck on a nickel planchet. That's right, a quarter image accidentally stamped on a 5-cent coin blank. That single error coin sold for nearly $65,000 at auction. And another near-perfect, silver-proof version in flawless condition, graded PR70 by PCGs, once hit a jaw-dropping $400,000 in a private collector sale. Think about that, a simple 25-cent coin from 2007, now worth more than many luxury cars. Collectors are fascinated by this design not only for its beauty, but for what it represents. The bison skull is a reminder of the old American frontier, of the balance between life, land, and spirit. It's a coin that tells a story, one of survival, strength, and untamed beauty. That emotional connection makes it more than metal. It's a piece of the American soul. If you have one, here's how to check. Look carefully at the word Montana and the date, 2007. If there's any doubling, extra metal near the edges, or faint cracks running through the bison skull, you could be holding an ultra-rare variety. And if the coin has that proof-like mirror surface, it might be one of the limited San Francisco issues that are already skyrocketing in collector demand. As time passes, pristine examples are becoming harder to find. Many were handled, circulated, or tarnished, meaning the ones that survive in sharp detail are now the stars of major coin auctions. So, before you toss that Montana quarter aside, take another look. That coin might not just represent the Wild West, it could fund your next great adventure. And stay tuned, because the next state quarter we're about to uncover has a secret that stunned even expert collectors. Some say it's one of the rarest modern errors ever struck by the U.S. Mint. Moving on, we ride deeper into the wild frontier, to the land of open plains, cowboys, and endless sky, Wyoming. And believe it or not, the state quarter has one of the most fascinating and valuable modern coin stories ever told. The 2007 Wyoming State Quarter might seem plain at first glance, but that's what makes it so deceptive. On the reverse, you'll see a striking silhouette of a cowboy riding a bucking bronco, a tribute to Wyoming's legendary nickname, the Equality State. The design, created by Norman E. Namath, perfectly captures the rugged independence and pioneering spirit that defines the American West. But here's where things get truly jaw-dropping. While most Wyoming quarters are common, some came out of the U.S. Mint with astonishing minting mistakes that turned them into modern treasures. Let's start with the basics. In fine condition, a regular Wyoming quarter is worth about 25 to 50 cents. Not bad, but nothing special yet. Move up to uncirculated condition, and you could be looking at around $25 to $75, depending on mint mark and luster. Proof versions, struck at the San Francisco Mint with that mirror-like finish, can fetch $100 to $250. But then come the error coins, and this is where Wyoming steals the spotlight. A small number of these quarters left the Denver Mint with what collectors now call the extra leg, error, doubling mistake. That makes the horse's rear leg look doubled or misshapen. Another variety shows extra metal on the horse's tail, creating a ghostly second tail effect. And if you find one with a missing leg, congratulations! You're looking at one of the rarest modern quarters ever struck. One such missing leg. Wyoming error coin shocked the numismatic world when it sold for nearly $250,000 in pristine condition. Yes, a simple 25-cent coin, but with an error so strange that collectors couldn't believe it left the mint. Other error types include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, or broad strikes where the rim didn't fully form, each commanding values between $5,000 and $20,000, depending on grade and visibility of the mistake. Now here's the part most collectors don't realize. Because the Wyoming design is so simple, just solid, smooth fields around the cowboy, even the tiniest error stands out dramatically. That means small imperfections that would go unnoticed on other coins pop like a neon sign on this one, making these varieties both easier to spot and more desirable to serious collectors. To identify one, look closely at the horse's legs and tail, and the letters around the equality state. Any doubling, cracks, or distortion could mean you're staring at a minting marvel worth thousands. And remember, Wyoming's coin came out during the final years of the 50 State Quarter program, when minting technology was being pushed to its limits to meet massive demand. That's part of why more subtle errors slipped through, and why these rare examples exist at all. So next time you find a Wyoming quarter in your change, take a closer look before spending it. That humble cowboy might just be hiding a six-figure surprise. It's wild to think that a coin representing the rugged heart of America could carry such hidden power. But that's exactly what makes coin collecting so thrilling. One small detail, one overlooked error, can transform something ordinary into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Now, let's turn the clock back to where the State Quarter phenomenon truly began. 1999, the first year of the program, with the proud and beautiful Georgia State Quarter. At first glance, it might look like just another quarter from your pocket change. But the deeper you look, the more fascinating this coin becomes. It was one of the very first state quarters ever struck, released right after Delaware and Pennsylvania, making it a cornerstone piece for collectors nationwide. On the reverse, you'll see Georgia's state outline framed by delicate branches of the peach tree, a nod to its famous nickname, the Peach State. Inside the outline rests the state motto: wisdom, justice, moderation, surrounded by 13 stars for the original colonies. And right in the center, that sweet, symbolic peach, the heart of Georgia's heritage. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. Because the Georgia Quarter was among the first released, the mint was still adjusting to massive public demand. Billions were struck, but not all of them came out perfect. And those tiny imperfections? They've turned some Georgia quarters into jaw-dropping treasures. In fine condition, your typical Georgia quarter might be worth about 25 to 75 cents. But step up to uncirculated condition, and you could see prices jump to $25 or even $100, especially for coins with strong luster and no scratches. However, some Georgia quarters from the Philadelphia Mint carry a rare and mysterious flaw: the clash die error. That's when the coin dies accidentally strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of the coin's design pressed into the wrong side. On a Georgia quarter, that can mean faint images of the peach or the outline appearing in reverse. Those error coins have stunned collectors, some selling for $5,000 to $15,000. Depending on clarity and preservation. Even more shocking, a handful of 1999 Georgia quarters struck on experimental planchets have surfaced. These were test metals the mint used before finalizing the coin's composition. One such coin, authenticated by PCGs, sold for over $450,000 at auction. Just imagine, $500,000 for a simple state quarter that most people would overlook. There's also a proof version, struck in San Francisco, that's dazzling in its mirror-like shine. In perfect PR70 deep cameo grade, these can reach $400 to $1,200. And the silver-proof editions made of 90% silver have been known to climb past $10,000 when perfectly preserved. To identify a potentially valuable Georgia quarter, here's what to look for. Check for a sharp, clear strike with frosted details on the peach and lettering. Look at the edges. If you see no copper line, it might be a rare silver-proof. And inspect both sides carefully under light. Any doubling, strange lines, or ghostly impressions might signal an error worth thousands. Collectors prize this coin not only for its beauty, but also because it represents the dawn of the state quarters era, a moment when millions of Americans first fell in love with coin collecting again. For many, this was the coin that started it all. It's almost poetic, a small coin from 1999, born from excitement and national pride, now standing as a symbol of how even modern coins can hide massive value. So, before you spend that 1999 Georgia quarter, take one more look. The next time you hold that little peach in your hand, you might be holding a piece of history, and maybe even a small fortune. Now, we're heading into the shimmering desert of the Silver State, Nevada. The 2006 Nevada State Quarter might just be one of the most beautiful designs in the entire series. But beneath its gleaming surface lies a secret that has shocked collectors and sent prices soaring to unbelievable heights. The moment you flip this coin over, you'll see why it's so loved. The design is breathtaking. 3 wild Mustangs galloping across the desert, manes flying, symbolizing the freedom and untamed spirit of the American West. Behind them, a rising sun and snow-capped mountains capture the vast landscape of Nevada, framed by sagebrush, the state flower, and right at the bottom, the words, "The Silver State." At first glance, a Nevada quarter in fine condition might look ordinary, worth just about 25 to 50 cents. But don't let that fool you. Underneath, there's a story of rare errors, experimental strikes, and once-in-a-lifetime discoveries that have made this coin one of the most exciting finds of modern times. Let's start with the regular issues. In uncirculated condition, Nevada quarters can bring $25 to $100, especially with sharp details and mint luster. But the proof version struck in San Francisco with that mirror shine and deep cameo frosting can fetch $200 to $500. And even more, is certified in perfect PR70 condition. Here comes the real shocker. A few Nevada quarters were struck on experimental silver planchets instead of the standard copper nickel. These ultra-rare errors were never meant to leave the mint, yet somehow, a handful escaped into circulation. One of those sold at auction for an unbelievable $475,000. That's nearly $500,000 for a quarter minted less than 20 years ago. Another fascinating error variety is known as the multiple strike Mustang coins that were accidentally struck twice or even 3 times, creating ghostly overlapping images of the horses. These have been known to reach $25,000 to $50,000 in collector sales. There's also the off-center strike variety, where part of the design is missing and the edge is thick on one side. Those can hit $10,000 or more, depending on how dramatic the error is, because the Nevada quarter's design has so many fine details. The horses, the mountains, the sun, even tiny minting mistakes stand out clearly, making it easier for collectors to spot rare varieties. Here's what to check on your own coin. Look carefully at the horse's legs and tails for doubling or ghost images. Check the edge for unusual thickness or clipping. And if your coin looks shinier and heavier than usual, it might be an off-metal or silver strike. That's where the real treasure hides. Collectors love this coin because it perfectly captures Nevada's wild beauty and independence. It's a tribute not just to the state, but to the spirit of the West itself, powerful, free, and unpredictable. And that symbolism, combined with its error varieties, has made it one of the most hunted modern quarters in America. It's hard to believe that a coin minted in 2006 could already be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that's what makes this hobby so magical. You never know when history, beauty, and luck might collide in the palm of your hand. So, before you spend that 2006 Nevada quarter, take a second look. Those galloping horses might just be carrying a small fortune across your fingertips. And stick around because the next coin we're about to reveal is one that collectors have whispered about for years. A design so striking, and an error so rare, that a single example once brought in more than most homes are worth today. And finally, we sail east to the ocean state, Rhode Island. The 2001 Rhode Island State Quarter may look peaceful and refined, but beneath its graceful design lies one of the most surprising value stories in modern coin history. Released as part of the third year of the 50 State Quarters program, this coin celebrates Rhode Island's proud maritime heritage. On the reverse, you'll see a majestic sailboat gliding through Narragansett Bay, with the Pell Bridge stretching elegantly across the background, a perfect symbol of freedom, connection, and adventure. It's a coin that feels calm, but its story is anything but ordinary. In fine condition, a typical Rhode Island quarter is worth about 25 to 75 cents. Simple, right? But if that same coin is in uncirculated condition, showing its original mint shine and crisp edges, you could already be looking at $25 to $100. And the proof. Versions, especially those struck in silver with that mirror-like brilliance, can easily reach $500 to $1,000 when graded at the highest levels. But here's where the mystery deepens. A small number of Rhode Island quarters left the mint with the spectacular and rare minting error known as the double sailboat variety. On these coins, you can faintly see two overlapping outlines of the sailboat, caused by a double die error on the reverse. The result? A ghostly image that seems to ripple through the waves, and collectors went wild. One pristine example of this double sailboat error sold for an unbelievable $225,000. And experts say even circulated versions could bring in tens of thousands if authenticated. Other rare varieties include off-center strikes, broad strikes, and struck through grease errors, where parts of the design are missing, sometimes half the sail, or the bridge appears faded or incomplete. Depending on severity, those can sell from $5,000 to $50,000 or more, and perhaps the rarest of them all, a rumored 2001 Rhode Island quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, meaning a quarter design printed on a gold-colored dollar blank. Only one confirmed specimen is known, and it reportedly sold privately for over $500,000. Think about that. $500,000 for a coin most people spend without a second thought. This coin also carries emotional weight. For collectors who grew up along the East Coast or near the ocean, the Rhode Island quarter isn't just currency, it's nostalgia. It's the smell of salt air, the sound of sails snapping in the wind, and the pride of America's smallest state, leaving a big mark in coin history. Here's what to look for. Inspect your Rhode Island quarter under bright light. Check the sailboat's lines and the bridge for any doubling or missing details. Look at the rim if the edges seem uneven, thick on one side, or off-center. That could signal an error. And if it has a proof-like shine or a silver hue, you might be holding a rare collector strike. The truth is, treasures like this don't come around often. Coins like the Rhode Island quarter remind us why every pocket of change deserves a second look. Because somewhere mixed in with the ordinary lies the extraordinary. So before you drop that quarter in a vending machine, take a moment to check it, because this peaceful-looking coin could be your ticket to a life-changing discovery. And that wraps up our journey through 7 of America's most extraordinary commemorative state coins, each one carrying a story, a mystery, and a chance at fortune. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden gems, make sure you subscribe to us Mint Mysteries and join thousands of collectors just like you, discovering the rarest coins, the wildest errors, and the most unbelievable values every week.